Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Catherine Cook, your MC for this afternoon. If you are already logged into the live stream today, I wanted to let you know that we're going to be starting in about 10 minutes. We hope you are getting settled in. We're so excited to have you here, and we'll see you soon. Hello and welcome to the annual Medical Teams International Healthy Women, Healthy World Luncheon. I'm Catherine Cook, your MC for this afternoon. We hope you're getting settled online and were able to grab your lunch and are ready to join us for our first ever virtual luncheon. We have an inspiring program to share with you today, but first, some quick tech tips. We have a support team standing by to help with any questions you might have during the program. They can be reached via email at events@medicalteams.org or by phone at 503-624-6615. You should have just received a text message or email to help facilitate your giving later today. Also, if you're watching us on the Better Unite platform, you'll see the giving levels identified on the right side of your screen. Our theme today is using your time, talents, or treasures to change the world. Each of us has something special we can offer to make the world a better place, to heal the hurting and show people in crisis that they are loved. Now, to begin our program, we have the privilege of introducing Gladys Hook. Gladys is calling in to give our reflection this afternoon. Gladys has been working for medical teams for about 7 years as the teams and projects coordinator in Guatemala. She's speaking to us from her hometown of Coban. Many participating today have had the pleasure of working with Gladys in Guatemala. Gladys, we welcome you here and look forward to what you have to share with us today.
Good afternoon. I consider it a privilege to be able to speak with you from Guatemala at this year's Healthy Women, Healthy World event. But before we begin a program, I want us to take a few minutes to pause and reflect on why we are here. During this time of uncertainty, no matter who you are in this world, God has equipped you to make a difference. And no matter where you are in the world, you have an opportunity to use your time, your talent, and your treasure to serve your neighbor. The Apostle Paul phrased it this way: we have different gifts according to the grace given to each one of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it's serving, then serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it's courage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give it generously. Each one of us has something to give. Just using your time to visit and listen to people can make a huge difference. I have a recent story of Marina. Marina is from Los Lopez, a village in Chicaman. During home visits, Marina came out of the kitchen and joyfully told me, "Gladys, I am happy to have you here. I thought that you were not going to come and visit again since everything stopped because of COVID-19. Proudly, Marina started to talk about how blessed she is to have clean water available so close to her house. After having me check her water system and hand washing station, Marina paused a few seconds and asked, "How is the U.S. volunteer team who built my water system doing? Are they okay? My kids like playing with them and often think about them. My family very much enjoy spending time and playing with the volunteers." It doesn't matter whether we have been given great talents or an ability or very little. What matters to God is whether we make a good use of what we have been given, whether large or small. May God keep you, bless you, and give you peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Gladys. We have so many friends to share with you over the next 45 minutes. You'll be hearing from Medical Team's President and CEO, Martha Newsom, our keynote speaker, Karisa Keasey, our 2020 Humanitarian honoree, and one of our staff members in Uganda, Monica Nakabugo. But first, I would love to introduce you to the leaders of Healthy Women, Healthy World.
The entire Healthy Women, Healthy World leadership team welcomes you to our 5th annual luncheon. We are so appreciative of your time, interest, and soft hearts towards women and their families impacted by global health issues around the world. I'm Peg Chamberlain.
And I am Deb Perry, and we are co-chairs leading the Healthy Women, Healthy World team. 2020 has been quite the year for all of us, and Healthy Women, Healthy World is no exception. So who and what is Healthy Women, Healthy World? We are all volunteers and supporters of Medical Teams International who have passions for women and children, for always learning, and for making a difference. We gather to learn about and discuss fascinating global health topics at a variety of free educational events, including movies, book discussions, and expert speakers. Our informational topics are varied and relevant. In January, pre-COVID, we hosted 2 unbelievably timely in-person educational events. We learned about viruses and the science and importance of vaccines and immunizations from local virology experts, including Dr. Helen Chu, who detected the first COVID patient in the United States. We had no idea that merely weeks later, the world's focus would become COVID-19 and finding a vaccine. Undaunted in our inability to gather and meet in person has not slowed us down and has only made us stronger. Like all of you, we learned to navigate Zoom meetings and bring together members not only from the Northwest, but from around the United States. Amazingly, this makes us better equipped to use our time, talent, and treasure to change the world. We conducted our first ever virtual event in April, and over 100 women and men joined us to learn how sharing hope is so important and impactful to those suffering around the world and within our own pandemic-stricken country. In July, we pivoted our annual summer movie event to the important tone of the United States and held an online book and movie discussion on racial injustice. This was a heartfelt time of introspection and personal growth, and it led us as a team to seek out more ways to unite. With humility, we acknowledge our volunteer leadership and participants lack diversity, and we're on the journey to improve that. We need and welcome you all to join us. Isaiah 1:17 tells us, "Learn to do right, seek justice, and defend the oppressed." We are becoming more strongly aware of the power of learning, listening, and changing. That has always been the goal of Healthy Women, Healthy World.
We are excited about the year ahead, and there is room at the table for you to join us. Now we'd like to share a video about the work of Medical Teams International.
At Medical Teams, our goal is to save lives. But the people we serve are not just patients, they're our brothers and sisters. We see ourselves in them, recognizing that as humans, we have the same emotions, the same desires, heartbreaks, and hopes. We all experience brokenness, whether physical, emotional, social, or spiritual. That's why we care for the whole person. That means sitting with families in their emotional pain as we treat their physical pain. That means listening to heartbreaking stories as we monitor heartbeats, offering comfort and compassion amid grief and loss. We believe every person deserves loving care because every person, no matter where they are or how desperate their situation, matters.
Hello, friends. Thank you so much for gathering with us this afternoon. I'm Martha Holly Newsom, President and CEO of Medical Teams International. I'm truly grateful for your compassionate hearts, Each one of us is struggling in our own way right now. Maybe you're at home juggling work and kids. Maybe you're anxious about the economy or the health of loved ones or the recent wildfires. Maybe your heart is heavy because of racial injustice. Despite all the burdens you're carrying, you're here today for other people in crisis. You choose to channel your time, talent, and treasure into healing women and children who are sick, scared, and alone. Women and children who are enduring more economic, physical, and emotional hardships than ever before as they cope with this global pandemic. Your presence here is sending a message to our sisters in crisis. The message is that they matter. You're doing something to heal the pain and injustice in our world, because no woman should lose her life during childbirth. No baby should waste away without proper nutrition, and no mother should watch her child die from a treatable disease. The sad reality is that most people in crisis, people like refugees, are women and children. Their everyday realities are hard to fathom. Many have experienced war and violence. They've lost homes and family. They've traveled alone with their children into the unknown because it's the only chance for their survival. They don't know if they'll have food or shelter, or if there will be medicine if their children get sick. In refugee camps and in remote villages, illness and death are common. Our staff witness these harsh realities every day. But they also see miracles because of people like you. So many situations could have ended in tragedy, but they end in healing and hope. Never before has your support been more important than right now in the middle of this global pandemic. A virus like COVID-19 only adds to the life-threatening health crises that women and children face every day. Pregnant women are afraid to seek care because they're worried about catching the virus. Children with underlying conditions are at risk of losing their lives if this virus enters their home. The pandemic adds yet another fear on top of every other hardship. In the face of struggle and uncertainty, we find strength in our calling. Daring to love like Jesus, we boldly break barriers to health and restore wholeness in a hurting world. Jesus calls us to love the vulnerable. He loves the widow, the outcast, and the little children. In the darkest of places, he is our light. During his ministry on earth, he healed the people who were most in need, the lonely, the oppressed, the afraid. And that's what you're doing here this afternoon. You're providing hope for people who feel hopeless. Know that the difference you make, even for just one person, matters. Whether it's giving your time to help others, using your talents for good, or sharing your treasure, you are showing women and children who are hurting that they are not alone. Each year at this fundraising luncheon, Medical Teams International honors a woman who's truly an outstanding humanitarian, a woman who reflects the values and calling of Healthy Women, Healthy World, a woman who's compelled by compassion, committed to women, and called to action. Our Healthy Women, Healthy World Humanitarian of the Year recipient for 2020 is a registered nurse who's used her time and talent to change lives for over 40 years. She started volunteering with medical teams back in 1999, responding to Hurricane Mitch in Honduras. That experience ignited in her a desire to continue helping people in need around the world. As a matter of fact, she volunteered on 16 trips with medical teams, going to places like Ethiopia, Iraq, Uganda, Libya, and Bangladesh, just to name a few of them. Because her first trip was part of a disaster response team, the conditions in which she lived and worked were challenging, to say the least. But sleeping in a tent, cold water bucket showers, and eating only beans and rice for a month were not a problem. She never complained because she knew the people she served were living in worse conditions. She gave her all to provide loving and compassionate care to these disaster survivors. She considers each opportunity to serve a gift, but I know that she's a gift to everyone she touches. She always portrays a sense of calm and peace. In her quiet spirit, there's a strong woman with a heart deeply rooted in a faith that allows her to move mountains. Let's take a minute to watch this really special video we've prepared for our 2020 Outstanding Women of the Year, Sharon Tissell.
I have known Sharon Tissell since 2013. The first thing I noticed about Sharon was just her enthusiasm for what she's doing. She's there because she genuinely wants to help people going through difficult times. She's a team player, no matter what the setting, and we've been in some difficult ones. She is willing to follow any role that is needed. She's a superb teacher. She's a great nurse, and she's just pleasant to be with and rarely, if ever, complains.
Whether it's Uganda, the Philippines, Iraq, or her first trip to Honduras, Sharon demonstrated over and over again the characteristics that you hope for in a volunteer. Rooted in Sharon is a God-given inner strength that empowers her to serve with an overflowing heart of courageous love. In my book, Sharon is a rock star.
I think one of the amazing things about Sharon is she just has this incredible, welcoming personality. And at the same time, she gets things done. And so working with her in Bangladesh, she was so amazing at working long hours, at powering through, and at just getting things done because she loves to serve people well. I think one of the biggest things that I realized and recognized when we were in Bangladesh was how much she cared for our Bangladeshi staff. She loved them so well, she supported them, and that was one of the main reasons that she was there.
What you get from Sharon is her whole self. You get love and care and compassion, and she makes you feel like you're very special.
I think Sharon deserves this award because she really exemplifies everything good that Medical Teams International stands for. I was frankly surprised that she had not won this previously.
I firmly believe that Sharon deserves this award because of her consistent willingness to serve those in need. There's so much strength in her quietness and so much peace in the way that she does her job that you just can't help but feel you're with someone who's very special.
It's an absolute honor for me to present this award to our colleague and friend, Sharon Tissell.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Martha, and thank you to MTI for the honor of this award as Humanitarian Woman of the Year for MTI. Those of you that are passionate about something know that just being able to do the thing you love is a gift in itself. This award, on top of the opportunity to serve the needy across the world, a desire that started for me as a young girl, is a great gift. As I look back on these years, I'm grateful to have worked with really amazing teams of skilled providers. Grateful to work alongside eager, dedicated, selfless local staff and to offer encouragement and training. I've become profoundly grateful to those of you who partner with MTI because in a very real way, I can share the love and care that you have for those who need it most. I've loved sharing heart to heart with moms and their families as they come with the very same goals that I have for my 4 children, for health and a future. I'm so grateful for patients who put their trust in our care on the field and who have taught me many things. In 2011, at the height of the Arab Spring, I was serving with a team in Libya, doing our part to provide medical care in a broken place. One particular morning, our medical facility was overwhelmed with patients from the conflict during the night, and I ran quickly to the supply room only to find that even there, a patient had been placed on a stretcher. As I grabbed the supplies I needed, behind me I heard this patient start to pray in her pain, "Jesus, help me, help me." Her words somehow sounded out of place and they surprised me, and it took me for a minute to realize that I had not heard anyone pray to Jesus in the weeks I'd been in Libya. As we cared for this woman and as her story unfolded, I learned that she was not only a woman needing urgent surgical care, but she was a foreigner, a Nigerian, and she was culturally and religiously in a very small minority. Hearing the name of Jesus in such an unlikely place as a supply closet in a Muslim country reminded me that there is not a place we go and no place we serve that God is not already there ahead of us. All we can do is give our very best in the places He's already working. My heartfelt thanks go to my amazing, supportive, selfless family who encourages me at every turn, and to the MTI family for this recognition today. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Catherine, for that kind introduction. It is such a privilege to be here today and just share a little bit of my story.
Thank you, Martha and Sharon. Sharon, I have to say, your remarks made me teary standing back there listening. It's just a reminder of why we're here today. You are both examples of women who are sharing their time and talents to improve the world around you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. I think you got a preview there. We are thrilled to welcome author and award-winning artist Karisa Keasey this afternoon. For more than 7 years, Karisa has been using her paintings to promote social justice and amplify the voices of some of the most marginalized people in the world. She's especially passionate about successful refugee resettlement and women's rights. Recently, she came out with her book, When You Can't Go Home. It follows the lives of 10 refugees and features 30 of Karisa's beautiful watercolor portraits. Friends, here's Karisa Keasey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Catherine, for that kind introduction. It is such a privilege to be here today and just share a little bit of my story for this luncheon. There have been so many changes this year, and it has been so inspiring watching Healthy Women, Healthy World love women and children internationally throughout all of them. And it is truly an honor to be a part of this community. So thank you so much for having me. As Catherine said, my name is Karisa Keasey. I am the artist and author behind the book When You Can't Go Home, Portraits of Refugees in the Pacific Northwest. Currently, my husband and I live in Seattle, Washington, where we live with our cat, and I paint, speak, and write full-time advocating for refugees. From wherever you're at, from your couch, from your dining room table, maybe you've made your way back to work, or maybe you are barricaded in your bathroom hiding from your children. No matter where you're at, thank you for joining and welcome. I read someplace that our future children are going to hate the year 2020 because of the amount of material they will have to memorize for an exam. But in all seriousness, it has been a heavy year for our world, for our nation, and for many of us personally. It is no small feat that you are setting aside your time to learn how to love others well when you are also hurting. Although I wish that I could meet with each of you personally after this and hear your story, shake your hand, or I guess an elbow bump since we can't shake hands now, I am also thankful for the opportunity to meet with you virtually, and so doing, protecting our community from the spread of COVID-19. We are a team that is loving our neighborhood and those around us, no matter how we meet. I don't know about you, but in this season, I have felt just an overwhelming sense of helplessness at times. I ask myself, what is my place in all of this? With everything going on, what is my role? On some days, I feel like I don't have anything left to give. And if I do give, does it even matter? My book, When You Can't Go Home, came as a response of feeling helpless in the face of injustice. I first heard about the refugee crisis and the severity of it about 6 years ago. My husband and I were sitting in bed and we were scrolling through Facebook, and I came across an article about the Syrian civil war. My heart was broken over the men, women, and children who were persecuted and forced from their homes. My heart broke further over the comments that were left saying, "Terrorists, we don't want you here, go back home." I was confused, I was angry, and quite honestly, I felt helpless. What can an artist do in the face of such injustice in a global refugee crisis? But I felt convicted. of two things. The first was that if I'm going to say that I'm for refugees, then I need to be a part of refugees' lives on an everyday level in my own community. The second is that it is not enough to be broken by what we see. I must aspire to be a part of the solution. And so I reached out to a nonprofit called World Relief that resettles refugees nationally. And it was through my relationships and hearing their stories that I discovered this massive disconnect between who refugees are and how the media oftentimes portrays them. They are not villains, they are not victims, and they are not saints. They are people, just like anyone else. They are mothers, fathers, students, teachers, entrepreneurs, doctors, artists, and they just need someone to walk beside them when things are hard, just like anyone else. And so it was through this need that the idea for this book grew, and the product was When You Can't Go Home, where I talk about 10 refugees and their stories aside 30 watercolor portraits. In addition to raising awareness and raising empathy for refugees, I've committed to giving 50% of the profit from each book to World Relief to directly help refugees in my area. I would like to talk to you today about two women who are role models to me, whose stories are featured in this book, and I hope that they'll inspire you too. They have taught me how to love my neighbor well. The first of these women is Tigreed. She is a refugee from Iraq. My friend is a wife, a mother, a businesswoman, and an amazing award-winning cook. She had invited us over for Iraqi tea to tell us her story, and I just remember being so nervous. I didn't want to say something wrong. I didn't want to offend her. I didn't want to offend her culture. I didn't want to say her name wrong. What if I take my shoes off and I'm supposed to keep them on? What if I drink the tea wrong? What if I breathe wrong? And I was just a basket case. And I remember stumbling up the stairs to her apartment and practically just falling into her lap with all of this camera equipment. It was very professional. And after our blundering entrance, she just took it all graciously and hosted us in her home. She ushered us in around the corner to her dining room table, where I learned that Iraqi tea is not just tea. It's more like a 5-course meal. I had, of course, eaten beforehand because I wanted to be polite. So it was the most delicious meal I have ever had in my life. It was also the most full I have ever been. After we were done eating, we made our way back to her living room, where her husband and her shared memories of living in Baghdad, Iraq, where she had her neighbors, her community, her family around her table. And she would host these dinners where there were people of every culture, of every ethnicity. And she talked about how the war had shattered this community, how the war had separated her from her family. Eventually, she and her husband and her son were placed in Seattle, Washington with refugee status. And it was overwhelming and it was hard to adjust, but she continued to host dinners. She continued to love people around her. And it just continued to amaze me how, even though some people looked out on her with suspicion because of her hijab, because of her exuberant personality and her just how eager she is about life, even though she's going through so much pain, she just continued to love. Afterwards, my husband and I sat in our car processing, and I remember sitting there shaking my head thinking, I can't do this. I can't write this book. There's got to be someone, anyone out there who is more talented, who has more tact, who can probably carry camera equipment better than I can, who is more knowledgeable, anything. I don't think I'm the right person to write this book. And then I stopped myself because I realized what I felt for those just a couple hours where I felt insecure and I didn't know what to do, and Tigreed was just so welcoming. That is what refugees feel every moment of every day. I realized that I had to write this book. It's not because I'm the best person to do it. I'm probably not. But I had to do the best with the resources that were given to me, that I wanted to be able to give Tigreed's story a platform. I think it's easy for us when we are advocating for someone to speak for or over them, but they have a voice. My job is to amplify theirs. Without Tigreed, and her generosity, I would not have the perspective, the motivation, or the humility to undergo this project. The second woman I would love to introduce you to is my friend Jean. Jean is a Rwandan matriarch. She brings warmth and security wherever she goes. She is a single mom of 5 children. Her and her children are only a few of millions of women and children that make up over half of the world's refugee population. Women and children are much more likely to be taken into sex and human trafficking, into being kidnapped so that their organs can be harvested. They are much more likely to be victims of rape and violence. More than anything, Jean has taught me what it means to keep going when things get hard. In 1994, she sat in her home holding her toddler to her as she also rubbed her growing belly as the due date drew near for her second child. The civil war between the Tutsi and Hutu clan had broken out. She didn't give up when the cries of her neighbors being slaughtered in their homes reached her ears. Instead, she secured her firstborn to her back, and she ran for the Congo rainforest along with hundreds of other civilians looking for refuge. She didn't give up when the soles of her feet began to bleed, when infection, disease, and ambush attacks began taking away her travel companions one by one. She recalls saying, "I was in so much pain. I fought my limits because I found a reason to persevere, and that was my babies." She didn't give up as she brought her second son into the world amid sewage and disease in a refugee camp. She prayed to God that he would bring her through. She didn't give up when she went nights without food to bring food to her 5 children. She didn't give up after working days and nights to provide for some kind of education for them. She didn't give up after walking miles to countless health screenings and interviews to try to obtain refugee status. It took her 10 years as a single mom to obtain status. She didn't give up when she was placed in a foreign city she had never heard of, Seattle, Washington, where the flashbacks from surviving a genocide mixed with the flashbacks, or I guess the trauma of acclimating to a new culture with her children. Instead, she reached out to other refugees in her community that were also feeling alone and had them stay at her house, giving them a warm meal. Now she lives with her children who are grown and off to college. She volunteers for World Relief, translating for other refugees like herself in the same position. She also has started a support group for people who have survived genocide just like herself. Her children are now following in her footsteps, using their careers to love other people. More than anything, this project has taught me that every person, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, has time, treasures, and talent that they can use to love their neighbor well. Let's talk about time first. When I think about time, I think of Jean. Jean has and continues to volunteer hours while working to help refugees like herself. It would have been easy to say, I'm too hurt, I don't have enough time, I just want to focus on my family, and no one would have blamed her. But she understands that healing happens in community, and community happens through pouring into others. I have had the privilege of being able to be a part of many nonprofits and observe how they run things. And one of the biggest obstacles that they face is a lack of volunteers committing and following through. I was so excited when I came with them, to World Relief with the book idea, and I was met with some skepticism, and I was really confused at first, and then I realized it was because so many people come forward to them with these grand ideas, wanting to save the world, and then as soon as there's a roadblock or things get busy in their life, then it gets put on the back burner, and it leaves the organization and those they serve hanging. Ideas are great, but they remain just that, ideas, unless they are executed. Let's be the volunteers, the family, the donors, the staff that shows up and continues to show up, not only when things are hard, but especially when things are hard. It may seem like you are not making a big difference today, especially since it's virtual, but let me assure you that you are. You are, and it means more now, more than ever. A good way to keep going on this motivation that you're going to feel after this luncheon is to attend educational events. A lot of us are going to feel on fire after this with all of these ideas, but I encourage you to keep going even after the feelings fade. There is a book club coming up on October 21st at 7 p.m. Pacific time via Zoom, where we will be studying The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. The second way we can love our neighbor is through our talents. Tagreed has found a way to give her love of cooking to her community, not only in her home, but she also volunteers for a program called Project Feast that teaches refugees to provide and cook for their own families. It would have been easy for Tagreed to compare her gifts to others, thinking it is mundane, that it doesn't really have a place, that everyone cooks, but trust me, hers really is the best. But she has found a way to creatively give it back to others and love them well. Comparison is a thief. It convinces you that because your talent is not as flashy, as loud, or just simply the gift that you don't want, that you don't have one. But nothing can be farther from the truth. I used to think that my gift for art was useless. I cannot tell you how many times people have come to me afterwards saying, Karisa, you know, I really wish that I could paint like you because then I could actually make a difference. You know what I wish I could do? Give legal advice or fix a computer, bind a broken bone, or I don't know, plumbing. If you have a broken pipe in your basement and your basement is flooding, the best I can do is scream and hand you a painting of a daisy. Both are not very practical in that situation. But given the right context, it is. What art can do is generate empathy, and empathy is the weapon of social justice. That I can do. Every talent has a time and a place that it can be used. Don't give into the idea that you don't have a gift that is not as good as others or into the game of comparison. Whether you are good with numbers or you are good at cooking, you are a doctor, you are good at gardening, or I don't know, you're good at video games, all of them can be used in whatever season you're in to love others well. Just look for a need, fill it with whatever resources you have available to you, and then look for another. The third way that we can love our neighbor is through our treasures. All of us have said at some point that we would like more money and more stuff. This was actually one of the areas that I felt the most insecure when I first heard about the global refugee crisis. My husband's a pastor, I'm an artist. It's no secret that we're not exactly rolling in the dough. We gave one-time donations, and those are important and impactful, but we wanted to do more. And so when we made this book, we committed to donating 50% of the profit from each book to World Relief. It was scary giving that amount. It's a big part of our income, but we were able to give much more through sustained and planned giving than we ever thought possible, while still providing for our family. We have a saying in our house to give a little bit more than what is comfortable, because in reality, compared to the rest of the world, we are immensely blessed. Amy Carmichael has a quote that you can give without loving, but you cannot love without giving. Again, you can give someone your resources without actually loving someone, but you cannot love someone without giving. If I'm going to say that I love my neighbor, but I not give them the resources that are also available to me, then I need to check that. Living this way has completely transformed our family. It is something that I hope to pass on to my children. Combining our resources with medical teams can reach the women and children that need help the most. We are not just fighting a virus, we are fighting a crashing economy, a collapsing medical and educational system. For many of us, this pandemic means wearing a mask in public, attending events like this virtually. But for many, it means a generation of illiteracy. It means cutoff of medical resources and death to curable diseases. The wake that this pandemic will leave will be felt for generations, and children are the biggest victims of that. We are able to pool together our resources to help medical teams reach the most vulnerable. We can pool our time, our talent, and our treasures to love our neighbor. I cannot tell you how many times I have said the words, when my talent gets better, or when I have enough money, when I have enough time, then I will give. I laugh at my own privilege when I say that, because meanwhile, while I'm thinking about and wondering if my talent's good enough, if my time is good enough, if my money is good enough, another person is forcibly displaced from their home every 2 seconds, primarily women and children. They don't get the privilege of asking themselves if what they have is good enough. They have to use whatever resources are available to them to survive that day. And yet in the midst of that, there are people like Tigri, there are people like Jean who continue to love wherever they're planted. I want to be like Tigri. I want to, in the midst of war, in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of political unrest, in the midst of forest fires, I want to lengthen my table to those around me. I want to be like Jean and use my positive and negative experiences to show people hope. And that's what we get to do today. We get to bring hope to women and children around the world. We are in heavy times, to say the least, right now. And more than any time, we are in need of that community, not only to remind us that we're not alone, but that we have an important role to play. I have been impressed with how Healthy Women, Healthy World has created that community and amplifying and empowering voices of women and children around the world. From medical and dental care to relief from forest fires and the pandemic, they are meeting the needs every day on the front lines. We get to be a part of championing and protecting some of the most vulnerable voices, our global neighbors. Thank you so much for joining us today. I encourage you to stay afterwards for the Q&A, where we can get to know each other and talk further about what it means to use our time, talent, and treasures to love our neighbors around us. If you're interested in my book, you can order it on my website at KarisaKeasey.com or download a free chapter. All of the images that you have seen today or that are in my book are also for sale, a percentage of which is going to World Relief. To keep up with current events, you can follow me at Karisa Keasey Art on Instagram. Thank you so much.
Karisa, thank you for sharing with us. I appreciate your challenge to use our gifts for good. It's incredible the difference our actions this afternoon can make for someone on the other side of the world. Someone like David. Like Jean and Tigri, David is a refugee. His family fled violence in the Congo and lives in a settlement in Uganda where medical teams works. Let's take a moment to watch his story now.
David was in a very bad condition. The skin was peeling off. He was swollen all over. He could not eat. You touch him, he cries because the skin is off. That means he has wounds. After being given milk formula and some treatment, the IV antibiotics, David improved and then he was discharged on outpatient therapeutic care.
David's grandmother was really invested in saving David's life. David's home is quite far from the health facility, and this grandmother used to walk every morning from her home to come and pick supply for David.
David's grandmother was a special case. She never left David at any one moment. And that's what a child with malnutrition needs: attachment, psychosocial support, and the medical intervention.
Nutrition saves lives. I've saved very many lives because of nutrition. I've seen very many families smiling because of nutrition. It is worth because I've seen the joy it gives a family, the confidence it gives a caretaker, what it does to the society, because the society believes in health. And now when you cure someone through nutrition, and this community knows how the baby was and have seen the results, the community believes in us as health workers.
I went to see David. As we went on interacting, I changed my language up to 5 languages, and David responded. David has never been to school, but when you greet him, when you tell him to pick something in English, he's able to pick up something. That means this boy, if well cared about, could be something important for the community. Who knows? He may be the next doctor tomorrow. Who knows? He may be the next president. Yes, it is very possible. Anything is possible. David can be anything.
And now to share how you can make a difference for a child like David, allow me to introduce Monica Nakabugo.
Good afternoon. My name is Monica Nakabugo. I am calling you today from Changwali Refugee Settlement in Western Uganda. Changwali is a home of over 72,000 refugees. Last year, we provided over 240,000 consultations in outpatient clinics and admitted 15,700 patients for care. You just watched the story of David Gato, a young boy who I got to know while treating him in our nutrition treatment center. As you saw, David is a very special boy. He's also deeply loved by his grandmother and the medical team staff. I met so many children like David, children who are abandoned by their parents, children who are swollen from head to toe, all just skin and bones, children who only have hours or days left to live. If I could only tell you one thing, it would be this, that you matter to kids like David. The way you spend your time, how you use your talents, and where you spend your treasure makes a real difference to kids like him. Sickness and death are real parts of lives of refugees. And the difference between a life cut short and a thriving, happy child can be so simple. It can be fluids to treat their dehydration, antibiotics to heal their infection, formula to replenish their nutrients. Our work is hard. I often lie awake at night worrying about my kids in my clinic. I wonder if they will make it to morning. But I also see miracles. It is hard to put into words the joy I feel seeing a child who was about to die walk out of my clinic smiling. And when those children return to their communities healthy, they encourage others to come to our clinics to get life-saving treatment before it is too late, to feel God's love through a healing touch. This afternoon, you can share God's love for some of his most vulnerable children. I am asking you to prayerfully consider using your treasures to heal children like David and other people in crisis. Let's join hands from across the world to care for our hurting brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Monica. Friends, your gifts today will support clinics just like Monica's that treat women and children. Now, as you consider your donation level, I have an incredible opportunity to share. A very generous supporter would like to inspire and challenge you to give big. Every gift you give at either the $150 level or the $1,000 level will be doubled today, up to $50,000. Wow, this is incredible. Let's maximize this gift today. I know we can reach this $50,000 goal on our way to raising $200,000 today. Now, you may be trying to remember how to give, so let me remind you since we have a few different options. First, if you're watching this live stream on your Better Unite page, you can just click on the level you wish to give at on the right-hand side of your screen. Or you might have received a text message that includes your unique donation link. Follow that to your login to access the giving page. If you're watching on another streaming site, please follow the link that should have just appeared in the chat area. You will be directed to the giving page. The information should also be showing on the screen right now. If you wish to give through your donor-advised fund or send a check or are interested in becoming a monthly donor, please take a moment to call us at 503-624-6615 or email us at events@medicalteams.org and someone will help you. We want to say a special thank you to our friends Ed and Barbie Benchoff for sending in their generous gift of $10,000. That gift can cover the cost of a new sonogram machine in Uganda. Gifts of any size are appreciated and truly make a life-saving difference. I sure hope we are gaining on our $200,000 goal this afternoon. Friends, I also just learned that we have one of Karisa Keasey's prints being offered in a silent auction. Here it is. This silent auction is opening now on the event page and will be closing at 7 p.m. today. So be sure to place a bid on this beautiful piece of artwork. On Better Unite, you can toggle between the event offers and the auction using the icons in the upper right corner under the yellow Donate button. The icon of a group will take you to the auction and the $ icon will take you to the donation levels. Or if you are coming from the main event page, you should see a red auction button that will take you to the bidding. Okay, why don't we check in with Martha while we give you a chance to find your buttons and donate and bid.
Hi, Catherine.
Martha, thank you so much for being here. I know that you mentioned Medical Teams helps so many kids every month. How many kids, and what does 50 cents have to do with what you guys do?
That's a great question, Catherine. So Medical Teams helps about 78,000 children every single month who are malnourished. And so it's incredible that 50 cents can go so far to help those malnourished kids. That 50 cents helps us to get a MUAC strip, which determines how malnourished they are. It also provides them with sugar salt solution if they've had diarrhea, and an antibiotic treatment to get rid of and address any infections that they might have. So, Catherine, it's just amazing how simple it is to help one child who's malnourished. So, really appreciate everybody who's watching today and helping us to do that.
I'm just in awe of what your team does and the lives. I mean, I've been holding back tears watching these videos today. And I know that gifts are starting to come in, but I want to remind folks at home that matching gift is still in effect. Your gifts of $150 or $1,000 will be matched today up to $50,000. Okay. Oh, wow. More good news. We just learned that the McIninch family gave a $10,000 gift in honor of Than Moore, Janine Ward, Christy York, and the other women who serve on the Healthy Women, Healthy World Committee. So thankful for their tireless work.
That's amazing.
Okay,
Wow.
Martha, one more question. You mentioned that people in crisis are typically women and children. They're disproportionately affected, especially now during this time of COVID-19. Can you kind of walk me through how that impacts them?
Sure. Well, what most people don't realize is that the most refugees are women and children. In fact, 40% of all refugees are kids,
Wow.
which just kind of blows our mind. And with this pandemic, we are worried about secondary pandemics. In fact, the New York Times talked about ongoing pandemics due to poverty, due to lack of sanitation and hygiene, people that don't have access to school. So these kids that, you know, they don't have Zoom, they don't have computers, they're going to just miss out on their education. And then there's also a risk of famine with parents that aren't able to farm and to work. You know, their situation is just going to get worse. And so really the pandemic is just making vulnerable people incredibly more vulnerable at this time.
I'm not going to lie, that's discouraging.
Yeah, it is really discouraging. And then we have the pandemic itself. So the International Rescue Committee is actually estimating that in the 34 most fragile countries in the world, that there could be up to 1 billion COVID-19 infections and 3.2 million deaths. So we're not out of the woods yet, Catherine.
Well, thank you. I think that's a good time, a little transition for us to check in to see how close we are getting to our $200,000 goal. Remember that if you need any help in making your gift today, you can call us now at 503-624-6615. How's it looking, Martha?
Looks like we're at 92,650. So I hope the folks online will just continue to consider how you can support these vulnerable women and children all around the world.
Almost halfway there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about pregnant women and those who are in that situation right now. How do our circumstances, how do their circumstances, I should say, of being a refugee while expecting, how are they hurting?
Yeah, well, first of all, they are watching the news just like us. So the news of COVID is really inspiring a huge amount of fear, and that's becoming a real problem because pregnant women need to get to their prenatal consultations. If they have any complications as they go into labor, they may not get to the clinic. And so we're really worried about additional mortality and more deaths just due to fear. They're afraid, you know, their child might come down with a fever, and they're going to delay. They're going to delay getting that baby or that child, that infant, to the health facility. And that could mean that by the time they get there, it's too late. So really concerned about things like malaria and TB, just the normal infectious diseases going up, or kids not getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
And then we could have additional outbreaks because of that as well.
Thank you, Martha. Just another note to our viewers, if folks are having issues finding the auction, it can be accessed on the main page by clicking the auction button right now. So I know there's so many means of technology that we're employing.
Hard to keep them straight, isn't it?
Absolutely. And just again, a special thank you for everyone who is joining us right now and taking the time. Oh my gosh, this is great. So currently we have $143,750. And Martha, we met our match.
Yeah,
yes,
awesome.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Great job.
I guess maybe that might be a good point to press pause on this virtual luncheon. Martha, what do you think?
I guess we hope that that number will just keep going up a little bit more, but thank you,
Yes.
Catherine, for being with us today.
Absolutely, Martha. God bless you, and thank you for what Medical Teams International continues to do. Thank you guys again for joining us this afternoon. We hope you've been moved today. You have the power to heal women and children around the world who are hurting and alone. Also, I wanted to let you know that the thermometer will stay on for a little while longer if people just want to keep watching. I know if you're like me, you want to keep seeing those numbers rising and having a reason to cheer today, right? Make sure to follow us on social media and join our Healthy Women, Healthy World Facebook group. Our events are posted on this group. Also, please consider taking time to continue learning with us at our book club on October 21st at 7 p.m. Keep your eyes open for that registration email. If you wish to participate in additional conversation after this program, we're hosting breakout rooms right after this event. Some of you might have been invited by a friend and already have a link. If you don't have a conversation room to join, follow the directions on the screen. Check tomorrow's email for upcoming event details and today's final fundraising totals. Martha, I know we're going to meet that 200,000.
We're going to get to that 200,000. I can feel it.
We truly appreciate that you chose to spend your time with us today. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.